Buju, Kinamagi Nene Ireland Indigenicas, coming live from the friendly confines of the fifth grade room with today's My Math lesson. Chapter 1, Lesson 7, Compare Decimals. This topic will eventually begin on page 49 in your My Math Volume 1 Student Edition. The packet is labeled Lesson 7, Compare Decimals. The essential question in Chapter 1 remains, how does the position of a digit in a number relate to its value? Begin with problem of the day. I'm going to start out with one of our annotation tools, the text box. It says, how much greater, use the digits 5, 2, 9, 3, 8, and 6 exactly once to write the greatest number possible. So the easiest way to do that, first I'm going to find out how many digits I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know it goes to the hundred thousands place. And I start with the biggest number, 9, 8, 6, 5, 3, 2. Now, how much greater is this than the least number possible? Let's go ahead and get my next text box. I'm going to try to line it up. And I'm actually going to take the numbers in order, but reverse. 2, 3, 5, comma, 6, 8, 9. And now I can subtract. Begin here. I can't go 2 minus 9. So I will go 12 minus 9, which gives me a 3. A little tougher going it this way. We had regrouped, so now we had a 2 minus 8, still can't do it. So that'll become a 12 minus 8 once I regroup, which is a 4. Go right here. That's also a 4 because I've regrouped, so but I'm gonna have to again regroup. So that's a 14 minus 6, which is 8. A comma. Oop, not yet. Comma after. Now we go over here. 5 minus 5 is 0. 8 minus 3 is 5. And 9 minus 2 is 7. 750,843 is the difference between 986, 532 minus 235, 689. I decided to show you this problem as these are the style of problems you will occasionally find on standardized tests. And I wanted to point out that when you get this style, the greatest number possible, you start with the biggest numbers. Smallest number, you start with the smallest numbers and work your way up. And then when you hear the word difference or how much greater, you know that you're going to subtract. So let's move on to the next slide here. You see the answers. I'm going to go ahead and completely clear all the drawings. Expanded form of this. How would you write this in expanded form? And word form. Well, first, let's do the word form. I have two digits right there. So that means it is going to the hundredths place. So it's how many hundredths? Well, the number there is a 34. I type in 34. I know there's two spots on my place value chart, hundredths. Expanded form. We don't have any whole numbers, so I'm going to start in parentheses. So that's 3 times 1 over 10, because we're in the tenths place, plus parentheses, 4 times 1 over 100. This represents the tenths place, 1/10. Hundredths, 1/100ths place. And then you see the 3 and the 4. I'm going to go ahead and clear all the drawings. All right, we begin with investigating the math. We are still not into the textbook. I will allow I will share that information with you when we get there. And it says, at a rummage sale, Jason School made $84.54 selling clothes and $71.88 selling toys. Which item earned more money at the sale? Well, you have two ways of doing this. You could look at it and you probably can eyeball it, just knowing that you are experienced in math. But let's say that you weren't. I could write the prices here, $84.55 and $71.88, and then compare the two. Well, we always start we look and we see we have 2 digits to the left of the decimal point. So that's gonna mean we have to actually do this. And we look here, 8 is greater than 7. So 54 is greater than 71.88. Seems pretty simple. If you write them down, you start comparing just like we did in one of the earlier lessons. And that was closed for the item. Generate 2 decimals greater than the model and 2 decimals less than the model. Well, our first thing we need to do is figure out the decimal value here. And this is in the hundreds, so I know that I'm gonna have a 0 point because there are no full ones. And first, the tens place, and the tens place represents an entire row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. I'm gonna put a 4 in the 10th place. And there are 2 left over, and the 2 of the small ones, those represent hundreds. So there are 2 hundreds there. That means there are 42 colored in. So let's get 2 that are greater. Realistically, as long as you go 0 point something greater than 4, greater than 0.42, you're all right. So I could say 0.43. I could say 0.9. Those are greater than the model. And if you notice that I have a 9, I could annex a 0 to make it easier to see the value there. And ones that are less, 0.41, 0.10, those are less than. Again, we're kind of looking towards comparing. I could compare what these are to 0.42, which we get to the hundreds place, 3 is greater than 2, 9 is greater than 4. And then comparing the smaller ones, the less than, 1 is less than 2, 1 is less than 4. So in reality, while it looks like we're just picking numbers that are greater than or less than, we are kind of working towards the ability to compare fraction and decimals. All right, I'm gonna clear my screen before I move on. And there's a lot of possible answers. So now we're gonna enter into our textbook. This is on page 49. Lesson 7 in your packets. You will notice that your screen, your page will look a little different than my screen, and that's due to the sizing. So I will adjust wherever possible, but you are on the right page. If your example basic, which means 1, says Tessa downloaded 2 songs onto her MP3 player. Which sound is longer? And if you're wondering, what's an MP3 player? They were actual devices that were meant for just playing music. They were quite popular in the early 2000s, late 90s. Now most people I know carry around your iPhone. Does a similar, and iPods did a similar thing. All right, so song 1, 3.6 minutes. Song 2, 3.8. One way we could do this is do a number line, and this number line goes from 3.5, which we could say 3.5, up to 3.9. You plot the two, and whichever one is further away from 0 is greater. So then we could say that, I'm gonna bring my annotation tool and my text box right to there. Which one's greater? Well, in this case, 3.8 is greater than 3.6. So that's one way I could do it, picturing it on a number line. Now I'm gonna be real with you. Most of the time, you're not walking around drawing number lines. you might do some of these in your head, but let's say we're still requiring you to do it on paper and pencil. Number line is one strategy, but not one that you're going to probably use very often. So another way, as I pass the answer key here, is to line up the decimals. And that's kind of what I did in the previous example. And we look at 3.6, 3.8. We started in the ones place because that is the greatest place, or furthest one to the left. And what is the word that we use when something has the same value? If you said equal, you're correct. So then we continue comparing until the digits are different, which in this case is one spot to the right in the tenths place. Notice there's a decimal point there, so we went from ones to tenths. And the value of a digit in the tenths place is 1/10 as much as that same digit in the ones place. So now, how does 8 compare to 6? You're probably looking at me saying, Mr. I, it's definitely bigger than. So we'll use the term greater than. And remember that our greater than icon opens up towards the bigger number, kind of like a Pac-Man. So we would say here that 3.8 now is greater than 3.6. So song 2 is longer. Take a look at this. If you have any questions, remember to shoot me an email or to ask in class or ask during the course of our live stream or our check-in sessions. Hopefully you can see that we just kind of worked over until we could compare the numbers and went from there. All right, we now can turn our page to page 50. And I'm going to clear the drawings. As I exit out. And they use the term same before for equal, but I like equal because that's what you're going to use as you go higher in math. All right, we do have a yellow bolded term here. That means it's one of our vocabulary words, which you will show up on assignments and will show up on tests and will show up on review tests. I want to make sure that you understand the vocabulary even as we develop those numerical skills so that when you walk into middle school next year, you have that really cemented in. So we say that decimals that have the same value are equivalent decimals. And you can see here the equa kind of sounds a lot like equal because it has the same root. And therefore we know that they are the same. So 8/10 could be shaded in as 8 columns. Or if I made this into a hundreds chart and colored in the exact same amount, it's 0.80. There's 80 colored in or there's 8 colored in. But it's the same proportion of the whole. The model show you can annex or place zeros to the right of the decimal without changing its value. For 5th grade math, and even really for middle school, that's something you're welcome to do. You know, when you get into a high school chemistry class, they might tell you not to put a bunch of extra zeros for no reason. But if you're using it for comparing right now, that's really what we will be doing with these. So you can put up 0 and then another 0 and another 0, and it effectively is not going to change because they are equivalent decimals. So now let's look at example niche. Write less than, greater than, or equal to in the circle below to make a true sentence. Remember, we call these number sentences. The first thing it's suggesting is to annex a 0 to the right of 8.6 so that it has the same number of decimal places as 8.69. That will help you when you're doing a comparison. So let's go ahead and follow its direction. I'll put a 0 there. So now I have 8.69 compared to 8.60. We start in our spot on the left. There's an 8 and there's an 8. Those are the same or equal. So we now move to the tenths place. 6 and 6 are the same digit. So those are equal. And we move to the hundredths place. 9 is greater than 0. So I'm going to go ahead and put my text box right there. And 8.69 is greater than 8.60. Since 9 is greater than 0 in the hundreds place, 8.69 is greater than 8.6. Take a good look at it. Let's do 2 more together on the guided practice. Let's do numbers 1 and 2. We'll bounce over here. Get my annotation tool. I know I'm going to want it. Comparing 0.5 and 0.7. And put each decimal on the number line. And remember, we want to read directions and follow them, even if this isn't the way you're going to do it personally. I have 0.5 and 0.7. Which one is further from 0? Well, 0.7. That means 0.5 is less than 0.7. Let's go to the next one. Number 2. So I can back it up here. 4.40 and 4.44. So there's my 4.40. On the left is going to be a smaller digit, lesser. 4.44. I see that 4.44 is further away from 0. There we go. And it looks so much larger on a number line, but in reality, these numbers aren't hugely different. That's where a number line can sometimes be good for showing you the comparison of numbers. All right, we're going to move into some independent practice. I want you to start with doing numbers 3, 4, and 5. Plot each decimal on the number line, and then write less than, greater than, or equal to in each circle to make a true number sentence. When you do these, pause the video, and then come back when you finish the 3. Go ahead and pause now. Welcome back. Let's see our answers here. You can see that the 4 is further from the left than the 1. 4.4 is further from the left than 4.1. So 4.4 is greater than. Comparing 0.37 and 0.39. You see the 0.39 is further away from the origin than 0.37. So 0.37 is less than 0.39. 0.57 and 0.65. You can see the 0.57 is less than 0.65. All right, let's go to the next slide. Make some number sentences. Go ahead and do 6 through 11. Pause the video and come back when you're ready. Pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see our answers here. You notice now 2.15 and 2.150. If we had next to 0 there, they would be the exact same group of digits in the same order with decimal points in the right spot. Those are equal. Even though this one has 3 digits and this one has 2. Over here, you can see that 0 is less than 1, so this is less. 6 is the same. 5 is greater than 4, so that's greater than. 0 is the same. 9 is greater than 0 here, so that's greater than. 7.3 is the same, but 1 is greater than 0, so this is greater. Now remember the annexing zeros. If I put 2 zeros there, I'm going to go ahead and show you that with my writing tool. So I have 2.800, although those are odd looking zeros, but you can see where it's equal. Let's go on to 12 to 14. Pause the video, come back when you're ready. You may pause now. Welcome back. See our answers here. 5 is less than 7, so this is less than. 6 is greater than 2, so greater than. And again, another word, if we annex the 0, you would see they have the exact same digits, so that's equal. some problem solving, and problem solving ones are definitely worth practicing. These are the kind of things you see on tests. For exercises 15 to 17, use the table that shows the cost of posters of famous works of art. Does the poster Relativity or the poster Women and the Bird in the Night cost more? So here's Relativity, 11.49, and Women and Bird in the Night, 18.98. We see that 8 is greater than 1, so it's Women and Bird in the Night. Go ahead and answer number 16 and come back and join me. Pause it. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see what we had. Which poster costs less? From the Lake number 1, which is $16.99, or Water Lilies, $15.99. 5 is less than 6, so Water Lilies costs less. All right, we have reached the point where I would like you to do the My Homework page. You may choose to do the paper and then either take a picture or submit it back into class when you're next in session, or you may use the Google form that is there to do the assignment. Do one of those methods, but not both. A lot of the numbers are the same, but if you really, really want to do double the work, okay, more practice. Still the same numbers. If you have any questions, please email me at mireland@sagchipschool.net. And I hope you all have a mental geisha god. I'm a P.